My father smirked, twirling his glass of Merlot. "You think you fit in at a place like this?" My sister, leaning close to my mother, murmured just loud enough for the table to catch. "She reeks of barnyard." I stayed silent, smoothing my napkin across my lap with a faint smile. They had no idea. 5 years ago, I'd left the city in shame, the oddball farm girl who ditched college to raise hogs. My name vanished from family gatherings, erased from holiday cards. But tonight, they'd waited weeks for a table at this upscale rustic restaurant they couldn't stop posting about online. They didn't know it was mine. Then the manager approached, his tone steady but deliberate. "Good evening, Miss Claire. Your private table is set." My father sputtered into his wine. That moment, everything shifted. I'd been waiting 5 years for it. I wasn't always the woman who made my father choke on his Merlot. Once I was just Claire Morgan, the middle child, the misfit, the one chasing dreams that didn't match the family's polished image. Growing up in suburban Massachusetts meant starched school uniforms, lacrosse practice, and dinner table debates about GPAs and elite colleges. My older sister, Emily, was their golden child, straight-A student, Harvard-bound, fluent in Spanish by junior year. My younger brother was being molded for Wall Street. And me? I loved pigs. Not as a quirky hobby, but with a deep fascination. By 13, I could explain pasture rotation and humane breeding better than most grown-ups. While my siblings joined Model UN, I worked weekends at a nearby farm, shoveling manure, bottle-feeding piglets, and studying the nuances of corn versus alfalfa feed. My mother once called me earthy with a wrinkled nose. At 15, I declared I'd raise rare-breed hogs and start a sustainable business. My father, skimming his Financial Times, didn't look up. "That's not a career," he said. "That's just filth with a daydream." Emily snickered. "What, gonna start Swine Queen LLC?" I went quiet, but my mind was already mapping it out. I went to college as they demanded. 2 semesters in, I walked away. The day I broke the news, my father's fist hit the table. "You're tossing our legacy for pig slop." My mother, always icier, stood and left without a word. After that, I was erased. No invites, no birthday texts, not even a call when my grandfather died. I wasn't shocked. In the Morgan family, love came with terms, and I'd broken them all. With my meager savings, I leased a small plot in rural New Hampshire. It wasn't pretty, a used trailer, thrift store boots, and pigs as my only kin. But for the first time, I felt alive. Even through 16-hour days in icy mud, sleepless nights in a lonely trailer, and selling bacon for pocket change at local markets, I never regretted it. I believed something they didn't. That hard work, integrity, and purpose could grow something extraordinary, even if it began in dirt. Those first years were grueling. I started with 8 hogs, strays from a failed farm left to fend for themselves in a harsh winter. I built pens from scrap lumber and slept in a trailer with a flickering heater. Every cent went to feed and vet costs. Rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. Locals dubbed me the hog girl, half mocking, half pitying at the corner store. Even nearby farmers scoffed when I talked about raising pigs without chemicals or cages, letting them roam fields and root naturally. "Sounds sweet till they wreck your land," one grumbled. They weren't wrong. I made errors, lost cash, faced setbacks. But I pressed on. I recorded everything. Every muddy failure, every golden moment when piglets dozed in straw, every dish I crafted, pork loin with cider glaze, slow-cooked ribs with wild berries. At first, I didn't share it. Then, in a moment of stubborn resolve, I posted a video online. What happens when you honor the animal? Real food, real roots. It showed me slicing fresh bacon, pairing it with eggs from a neighbor's hens and greens from my garden. I uploaded it and moved on. 3 days later, it had 3 million views. Suddenly, people wanted more, not just about the pigs, but the food. "How's that skin so crispy? Where can I try it? Do you ship?" A food blogger reached out, then a local newspaper. Then came an email I couldn't believe. A small investment group from Boston wanted to meet. They liked my ethos, my story. They wanted to back a farm-to-table venture. I didn't know business pitches, but I knew authenticity. I invited them to the farm, set up a dinner under discount store string lights with mismatched chairs. I served 7 courses, all from my pigs. They signed the next morning. That's how the true swine was born, a converted barn with 10 tables at first, then a full restaurant with a waiting list. People drove hours to eat there. Some camped out overnight. It was real and it was growing. I still cleaned pens daily, but now my pigs meant more than survival. They were a vision taking shape, built from the very mud I'd been mocked for. We opened the first true swine location 9 months after that dinner, in a renovated feed store we rebuilt with local builders and a few passionate interns. The walls were salvaged timber, the tables handcrafted cedar, the chairs deliberately eclectic. No sign out front, just a small iron hog above the door, but the aroma drew them in. As wood smoke and braised pork wafted into the gravel lot each night, people came. They brought folding chairs when we ran out of seats, waiting hours without complaint. The menu was my life's work. Pork chops with maple reduction, crispy pig ear sliders with citrus crema, house-cured bacon over skillet cornbread with sage honey. Everything sourced from small farms I trusted, including mine. No compromises, no prepackaged meat, no dish untouched by human hands. It wasn't just food, it was a declaration. Food critics started showing up. A Savour writer called it New England's truest plate. Eater sent someone next. They dubbed me America's Hog Queen. I chuckled, but the name stuck. Offers to expand rolled in, most were wrong, tied to corporate strings. I declined until I met Rosa Martinez, a Mexican-American entrepreneur who'd built her own catering empire. "Your work's authentic," she said. "Let's grow it without losing its heart." We teamed up. I kept the vision, the food, the name. She brought structure, connections, grit. Together, we opened the flagship True Swine in a restored Boston train depot, lofty ceilings, raw brick, the kind of place my parents would call proper dining. It had a 7-month wait list. Forbes named me to their 30 under 30. I spoke at food conferences and eco forums, but kept my face off the website. This wasn't about me, it was about the work. My family never reached out. They likely pictured me slinging meat from a roadside stand. They didn't know their friends were snapping photos inside my restaurant. Then came Emily's email, dinner reservation confirmed. Excited to celebrate my engagement at the True Swine. "Don't flake, Claire, you owe Mom that much." I stared at the screen. They'd waited 6 weeks for that table. They had no clue. The email was from Emily. Family dinner for my engagement celebration. 7:30 p.m. Saturday, the True Swine flagship. Be there. Attached was the reservation for 7. I read it 4 times. They didn't know this was my place. My name was nowhere public. I'd made sure of it. No headshots in press kits, no hometown mentions in interviews. The True Swine stood on its own. Now they were walking into my world, oblivious. I considered canceling their booking, claim a scheduling error or a sudden closure. But something stopped me. Not spite, not even triumph, just readiness. I wasn't the girl who shrank from their scorn anymore, who hid tears when they skipped her birthday, who acted unbothered when they left her off the family newsletter. I'd built something true, celebrated, meaningful. If we were to meet again, it wouldn't be at some stiff family brunch or forced reunion. It'd be here in my domain, surrounded by the work they swore would never matter. I replied 2 hours later, confirmed. "I'll be there." I arrived 10 minutes early, not through the staff door in my usual work boots and flour-dusted apron, but the front entrance. I wore a simple linen dress, scuffed farm boots, and a worn canvas jacket my pigs had once nibbled. I didn't mask the faint scent of straw and smoke on me. I wasn't here to perform. The hostess, catching my eye, smiled. "Miss Claire," she whispered with a nod. "Seat me last," I murmured, like any guest. She got it. From the corridor I heard them, my mother's sharp voice, my father's deep drone as he recited the wine list like a sermon, Emily's bright laugh echoing off the brick. I waited by the bar out of sight until the hostess signaled. Then I walked in. The table hushed for a split second as their eyes landed on me. My father gave a dry laugh. "You think you belong here?" he said, shaking his head. I smiled thinly. "Evening, everyone." Emily leaned toward my mother, whispering loud enough for all, "She smells like Barnyard." I didn't flinch, just took the empty chair. My boots tapped the oak floor. My hands were clean but calloused, my hair neat but carrying the farm's faint wildness. "You could have dressed up," my mother muttered over her Prosecco. "This is my formal," I said, pouring water. "Hope you can cover the bill," my father added with a smirk. "This place isn't cheap." I nodded calmly. No one asked about my life. No one said, "Good to see you." To them, I was still the girl who'd traded her future for a pig pen. Yet they'd waited 6 weeks to sit at my table in my restaurant. They just didn't know it yet. The appetizers had just been cleared when it happened. We'd shared a plate of pork crostini, my recipe, and bacon-wrapped figs with balsamic glaze. They didn't know they were judging my work. My mother nudged aside the pickled fennel. Emily flicked off the crispy rind. My father wondered if the bacon was too rustic for fine dining. I let them. Then Javier, our general manager, approached, polished, poised, holding a leather menu. "Pardon me," he said smoothly. "Is Miss Claire Morgan here?" My father's brow furrowed. "What's this about?" he demanded. Javier turned to me, smiling. "Welcome back, Miss Claire. Your private table is ready in the back room. Shall I bring the reserve wine list now or after your kitchen tour?" Silence. Emily blinked. My mother's hand froze. My father choked on his wine, coughing hard, dabbing his mouth, eyes wide. "What did you say?" he stammered. Javier, unfazed, addressed the table. "Miss Morgan prefers the private dining room when she visits the flagship. Shall I move you all there?" "No," I said softly, setting down my glass. "This table's fine." They stared like I'd sprouted horns. "You work here?" Emily asked, eyes narrowing. "What, like a manager?" "I know the staff," I said, smiling. "You know them?" My mother pressed, voice wavering. "I trained most of them." My father leaned in. "So what, you're a sous chef, shift supervisor?" I clasped my hands. "No, Dad, I own this place. The true swine is mine. I created it, I run it, I built the menu you're eating, every dish, every flavor." No one spoke. "This is some trendy farm-to-table spot," Emily muttered. "You're not serious." "She's kidding," my father said, almost pleading. Javier cleared his throat. "Actually, sir, Miss Morgan is the founder, executive chef, and owner of our restaurant group. This flagship is the core of our brand." "Restaurant group?" my mother echoed faintly. I turned to her. "We've got 8 locations, Boston, Seattle, Austin, Burlington, all built on pork from my farm, the one you called a muddy fantasy." The words hit like stones. "You hid this," Emily whispered. "You let us think you were scraping by." "No," I said evenly. "You assumed I didn't correct you." "But why?" my mother asked, eyes darting. "Why keep it secret?" I looked at the faces who'd once deemed me worthy only if I followed their script. "Because I wanted to see who you were when you thought I had nothing," I said. "And now I know." Javier spoke again. "Chef Lucia needs your input on the new sage-rubbed rib recipe for the summer menu, Miss Morgan." I stood, brushing my jacket. "I'll be back soon. Enjoy the main course. It's a braised pork shoulder, my signature." I left them in stunned silence. When I returned 15 minutes later, they hadn't moved. The entrees sat untouched, still steaming. The air was thick with something new, uncertainty. Emily spoke first. "It's all real?" I nodded. My father, rigid, asked, "You built this, all of it?" "Yes," I said quietly. "From the ground up, from the pigs you mocked." My mother toyed with her earrings, her tell went unsettled. "But the money, the scale, how?" "I worked 3 jobs that first year," I said. "Lived in a trailer, cooked on a camp stove, pitched to investors in the rain. Every cent, every hour, I made it count." Emily leaned back. "You could have called, you didn't have to shut us out." I raised an eyebrow. "You shut me out the day I chose pigs. You called it embarrassing, said I'd crawl back." "We were concerned," my mother said, defensive. "You were ashamed," I corrected. "You thought I picked failure over success. You were wrong. I chose my success over yours." Silence. "Funny," I added. "You waited 6 weeks to eat at a place you didn't know was mine, a place you now say smells like a barn." Emily flushed. "I didn't mean—" "You did," I said gently. "And it's okay. It reminded me who I was to you and who I'll never be again." My father cleared his throat, grasping for control. "What matters is this accomplishment, Claire. It's impressive and we want to recognize that." "I don't need recognition," I said. "I need respect, the kind that doesn't wait for a magazine feature or a booked table." A pause. Emily spoke softly. "So what now? You cut us off for good. Let this be the last dinner." I looked at her. "No," I said, "but things change now. If we're going to reconnect, it's on my terms. No barnyard jabs, no sneers at my boots, no questioning my finances." "We can do that," my father said stiffly. "I'm not done," I said. They froze. "No networking pitches, no investment offers, no parading me at galas to flaunt your daughter's restaurant. I'm not your trophy now that I've made it. I'm the same girl who loved dirt and straw over satin and Chardonnay." My mother's lip quivered, but she stayed quiet. "One last thing," I said. "I'm proud of what I built, but I'm prouder I did it without twisting myself to fit your mold." My voice softened. "I'm here not because I need your praise, but because I finally don't." Emily exhaled. "Okay," she said, "that's fair." After a beat, I added, "If you want, I'll host your rehearsal dinner here, my gift." Her eyes widened. "You do that?" "You're still my sister," I said, "but this isn't about proving myself. It's about sharing what I've built my way." She smiled faintly, a real one. "I'd like that." My mother's eyes shimmered. My father looked down, maybe ashamed for once. "I want to learn about this," Emily said quietly. "About your work, how you got here." "Come early," I grinned. "I'll teach you to feed the hogs," she laughed. "I just might." For the first time in years, the table felt less like a war zone and more like a starting point. Later, after the plates were cleared and the last sips of cider drained, I slipped into the kitchen, my haven. Lucia, my head chef and the flagship's anchor, glanced up from the pass. How'd it go with the high and mighty? I laughed. They choked on the pork, figuratively and literally. She raised an eyebrow. Rubbed too bold? No, I said. The truth was. We tweaked the summer menu, tasted a slice of smoked loin, adjusted the sear on the chops. The familiar rhythm of a late shift steadied me. When the crew finished and the lights dimmed, I lingered by my office. A text from Emily. Tonight was intense, but thank you. Can we talk soon? I'd love to visit the farm, no judgment, just curious. I smiled. Maybe she meant it, maybe not. But for the first time, she was reaching out to understand, not fix me. I replied, sure, bring boots. I stepped onto the staff patio, overlooking the small herb plot we kept downtown. Even here, I'd insisted on growing our own sage, rosemary dill, a nod to my roots. The night was cool, quiet, not empty, but hard one. I sat on a bench by the lavender and opened my worn notebook, the one I used when thoughts felt too big for a phone. I wrote, I thought success would feel like cheers, but it doesn't. It's calm, like peace, like not flinching when someone doubts your path because you don't need to justify it. It's dirt on your boots in a room of glass and not caring. It's knowing every scent, every story, every hand behind the plates because you built it. It's being the girl they called foolish and not needing to prove them wrong anymore. I closed the notebook and looked up. The city stars were faint, but there, steady like truth, like roots. I'd come full circle, not because they saw me now, but because I no longer needed them to.